Welcome, dear friends. Welcome to our spiritual home, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tarpon Springs. Our church is located here in the heart of the walkable Tarpon Springs Historic District and is known as the home of the Innes paintings. My name is Barbara Rosen, and I'm serving as worship associate today. We are a church of many welcomes, and we offer you a warm welcome to all who have joined us. This is a liberal community for all ages, promoting spiritual growth, social justice, and the arts. As such, ours is an active church, and everyone is invited to participate in any of our activities, whether you are a member or not. To learn more about events, our church calendar is on our website, or you can discuss activities with church members or check with our membership chair, Judy Pickett, and she'll send you information when she has your email. We are honored to have our minister, Reverend Kristina Spaude, leading the service today. Music is provided by our music director, Bonnie Whitehurst. We begin today's service lighting our chalice. By Lisa Doji, originally written after 9/11, and to help us remember that day in our history. Why a flaming chalice? The question comes. It's the cup of life, we answer, a cup of blessings overflowing, a cup of water to quench our spirit's thirst, a cup of wine for celebration and dedication, the flame of truth, the fire of purification, oil for anointing and healing. Out of chaos, fear, and horror, this was the symbol crafted generations ago. So may it be for us in these days of uncertainty, sorrow, and rage, and a light to warm our souls and guide us home.
Our story today comes from Barbara Marshman. This is What If Nobody Forgave? In a land far away, a wise old man who knew a great deal about people because he traveled from place to place, arrived at a strange village. In this town, all the people were carrying what seemed to be great bundles on their backs. They couldn't look around very well, and they never looked up because of the heavy burdens they carried. Puzzled, the wise old man finally stopped a young fellow. "My good man, I am a stranger to your land and am fascinated by these large bundles you carry about but never seem to put down. What is their purpose?" "Oh, these," answered the young fellow in a matter-of-fact way. "These are our grudges." "My," said the old wise man, "that's a lot of grudges to collect at your age." "Oh, they're not all mine. Most of them were passed down in my family." The young fellow heaved a weary sigh. "See that man over there? I have quite a lot of grudges against his family. His great-great-grandfather called mine a horse thief when they both wanted to be elected mayor. The wise man looked around and shook his head sadly. You all look so unhappy. Is there no way to get rid of these grudges? We've forgotten how, said the young fellow, shifting his load a little. You see, at first we were proud of our grudges. Tourists came from miles around. But after a few years, Grudgeville became a dreary place. Nobody came, and we had forgotten how to stop holding our grudges. If you really want to get rid of these grudges, said the wise old man, I think I know 5 magic words that will do the trick. You do? Asked the fellow hopefully. That would be a miracle. I'll go and have the mayor call all the people of Grudgeville together. And off he went as fast as his grudges would let him go. The mayor lost no time calling the people to the village square. The mayor and the wise old man stood on a platform where they could see all the hunched over villagers. When the people had quieted down, the mayor said, Good people of Grudgeville, a wonderful thing has happened. A very wise stranger has come into our town. He says he can tell us the magic words that will rid us of these grudges we have carried for generations. How many of you would like to be able to straighten up, have your grudges disappear, look at the world in a whole new way? Listen to the wise words of our visitor then, and do as he tells you. My friends, these are simple words, yet some people find them hard to say, said the wise stranger. I think, though, you have the courage to speak them. The trick is that you must say them to each other and truly mean them. The first 2 words are, I'm sorry. Can you say them? The other 3 words are, I forgive you. Can you say that? Now say these words to each other. There was a long pause, then a low grumble from the townspeople. First one person, and then another, said the words. Soon they were all saying them to each other, quietly at first, and then louder. And then, would you believe it? Just like the wise man predicted, the grudges disappeared. What a joy there was in the town. People were heard saying, Look how these trees have grown. And, is that you, Jim? How good to see your face. There was dancing in the streets that day, and it wasn't long before the mayor changed the name of the town to Joytown.
Now is the time in the service where we take our offering for the work and welfare of this church. Ours is a free faith, and for it to remain so, the church is also self-sustaining financially. Donations can be made on our website, uutarpon.org, or you may mail your offering to the church at 57 Reed Street, Tarpon Springs, Florida, 34689.
Our reading today comes from David White. A reminder that Mark Hopkins is going to be sharing a workshop by David White starting later this month. If you're interested, there is information, but if this reading captures your attention, I encourage you to consider it. This is an edited excerpt from Anger, from Consolations, the solace, nourishment, and underlying meaning of everyday words. Anger is the deepest form of compassion for another, for the world, for the self, for a life, for the body, for a family, and for all our ideals, all vulnerable and all possibly about to be hurt. Stripped of physical imprisonment and violent reaction, anger is the purest form of care. The internal living flame of anger always illuminates what we belong to, what we wish to protect, and what we are willing to hazard ourselves for. What we have named anger on the surface is the violent outer response of our own inner powerlessness, a powerlessness connected to such a profound sense of rawness and care that it can find no proper outer body or identity or voice or way of life to hold it. Our anger breaks to the surface most often through our feeling there is something profoundly wrong with this powerlessness or vulnerability. Anger too often finds its voice strangely through our incoherence and through our inability to speak. But anger in its pure state is the measure of the ways we are implicated in the world and made vulnerable through love in all its specifics. A daughter, a house, a family, an enterprise, a land, or a colleague. But anger truly felt at its center is the essential living flame of being fully alive and fully here. It is a quality to be followed to its source, to be prized, to be tended, and an invitation to finding a way to bring that source fully into the world through making the mind clearer and more generous, the heart more compassionate, and the body larger and strong enough to hold it. What we call anger on the surface only serves to define its true underlying quality by being a complete and absolute mirror opposite of its true internal essence. The only thing that rivals fall is coming, and a new year is beginning for me is the start of school. Otherwise, it's all about the Jewish high holy days of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. My closest friends in middle school and college were and are Jewish, and I think it always struck me how time was so carefully set aside for deep reflection and commitment. The introspection helps guide each person toward their path of repentance, so that finally, on Yom Kippur, they might be sealed into the book of life. Although some tradition states that God writes the names of the righteous in the book of life on Rosh Hashanah and condemns the wicked that same day, there are also a good many people whose fates have not yet been written, and the 10 days of awe, as the time between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are sometimes called, are days of prayer, reflection, practice of good deeds, and making amends. That their names might also be included in the book of life before it is sealed for the year. So the beginning of the year is a chance to get your spiritual home in order. It's a fairly intense way to begin any mark of time, and I have long admired how it gives followers the opportunity to take note of the ways they have sinned or missed the mark and seek repentance and reconciliation where it can be worked out. We get some wiggle room in there to be better and to do right as best we can what we have wronged. Jews are called to take ownership and responsibility of and for their lives and actions in this way because it not only prospectively serves for their own good. After all, no one can be assured of which category they fall in the book of life until they get to the other side. But also because this is how we keep in relationship, how we make the world a better place. It's not by taking care of our own individual selves, but by being in relationship, mending broken relationships, deepening relationships, and finding ways to help repair and heal the world. Tikkun olam. It's a way to embrace possibility, working to recreate the world, to practice becoming what and who we want to be. Yom Kippur is the Day of Atonement, also sometimes broken down as the Day of At-One-ment, when we strive to be our best selves that we can be at that time, when we have done everything we could that our lives might be at peace because our relationships have all been tended and cared for. Amends have been made for the ways we have caused hurt and harm. We renew and recommit to doing our best, knowing that our understanding of that will possibly change over time. But we have done the work of reconciliation and worked for healing, that we might return to at one-ment with ourselves and each other, which restores us also to at one-ment with that which is greater than we are, referred often to as God. I love the Jewish New Year and its practices. And y'all, I am so angry. I have been for months. I'm sure many of you are too. I'm a lot angry because everything, the unceasing pandemic for one, we have all been working so hard to keep safe for a year and a half, and other people can't be bothered to look out for anyone but themselves, claiming bodily autonomy in the same dang breath when bodily autonomy is being assaulted once again by the state of Texas for anyone who is pregnant. And what makes this time different about that, because this isn't the first time this kind of thing has happened, it's not their first rodeo, so to speak. What makes this time different is that the Supreme Court hasn't blocked it, an act it has done in the past. I am appalled at how this law depends on people turning on each other to report abortions and being able to financially gain from it. And so then I'm also angry about the previous presidential administration and the last two ridiculous appointees to the bench. And I'm angry with every single person who voted and otherwise supported the previous presidential administration in any way. I'm angry about how so many places have been gerrymandered and how voter suppression is an active campaign to disenfranchise especially those who might vote for change. I'm furious, in all honesty. It's always just below the surface. And I'm tired. Ministering in a pandemic is exhausting, even in the healthiest of congregations, which just sends me back through this loop of all of these other things. There's no shortage of things to be angry about right now. I mean, if you're paying attention. I'm tired of being furious, and I'm tired of people's behavior that only serves themselves, and frankly, even the idea that their behavior serves themselves is a stretch, because if we hurt or harm each other, how are we not ultimately hurting or harming ourselves? I read a handful of articles and thought pieces as I was reflecting on this service. The Quiet Rage of the Responsible by Paul Krugman in the New York Times, for example, as well as editorials like, "As a doctor in a COVID unit, I'm running out of compassion for the unvaccinated. Get the shot," by Dr. Anita Sarkar in the LA Times. And "Anger is only making trauma of pandemic worse. We should all try being more constructive," by Mary Lou Johannick in the Ohio Capital Journal. And "The Parable of the Shopping Cart," by Alida Payne, among others. Not one piece I read had any answers for me or my anger. It seems like everyone is tired and angry. I was heartened to be reminded that surveys indicate that although the vaccinated and responsible are not the ones making headlines, we are the majority. Also noting my deep anger with our journalism and news media and how it is driven by attention seeking and not giving a healthy lay of the land description. Not all news is fair, healthful, or helpful. See, no shortage of ways to be angry. I don't think it's fair to say that anger is making trauma worse. I'm angry and constructive. It turns out that not helping as much as that author thought it might. No answers anywhere I looked. So I was left with my continued angry self. Cool. But I'm a minister, and one of the things that goes with that is helping people make sense of their lives and the world. Sometimes also begrudgingly myself. When I took a minute to actually think about my anger, righteous and appropriate as it may be, I took a breath and leaned back to my chaplaincy training. I remembered that anger often masks sadness. And as poet Nayera Wahid wrote, anger is often grief that has been silent for too long. Oh, I'm sad and grieving. Because the world is on fire, everything is hard, I'm tired. We don't have any idea when we might be on the other side of the gajillion things that are horrible right now, assuming that we will get to the other side. The second year of my chaplaincy training, I spent working with veterans who had dementia and other cognitive impairments, as well as the medical and support staff who worked to care for them and their families. I remember how clearly the social worker would say to families and new staff, students and others, that anger is an expression of unmet needs. This often goes hand in hand with anger being expressed as a way to feel powerful, to have a sense of control and empowerment. So I have unmet needs and feel powerless and like I have no control. Being able to name this for me is one way that I move from my feelings and emotions to mind, body, and spirit. It helps me soften myself and gives me space not to react as much so that I can think and be outside of and around my thoughts and feelings, my feelings and emotions. Feelings and emotions are good things. They help us know when we might not otherwise, things that we might not otherwise know. Our brain is telling us to look out, or we're safe, or all sorts of other things. But when we get stuck in our feelings and emotions and they become thoughts and begin impacting our relationships and our lives because we structure everything around them, we get stuck. And I recognize it's probably been causing me some extra stress and hurt that I did not need. I think we're all more prone to this kind of thing during the pandemic, which is both the uncontrolled spread of a highly effective virus, but also a prolonged trauma that we're all experiencing. Trauma is not dissimilar to mental illnesses like depression, which collapse our window of experience and possibility. I know my own depression at times has caused hyper-focusing and a distinct tunnel vision that prevented me from being able to appreciate a full spectrum of emotions or thoughts. Essentially, I became trapped in myself. Trauma often acts in similar ways. Trauma, depression, and anger also feed into us versus them making and the othering that goes with it, which, as a Unitarian Universalist, is rather an antithesis to who we are, except that boundaries, covenants, and consent are important, and we do hold people responsible for their actions. And I remembered two more things: that truthfully, the only person I can save is myself, and that the most effective work I can do with people who are closer in mindset to me, as well as the movable middle, is where I can be successful. People on the other extreme are not going to change their mind based on anything I've said or done. Our news media and politicians and other things have caused so much division that those chasms are just too great. Sometimes even when we have a relationship with those on the other side. And ultimately, there is no one but us. We're all in this together, whether that's the choice we would have made or not. My anger is not only because I wish others would protect me better, but also themselves. I've come to realize that forgiveness isn't just about letting things go, seeking reconciliation, or even about making peace. It's also about not devoting your energy to things over which you have no control. And so this year, I am embracing possibility by first forgiving myself. I'm taking some deep breaths and noticing that there is more space in me, and noticing the sweetness of that which isn't anger or sadness, because hope and joy and gratitude and contentment and curiosity and possibility and generosity also live here. Part of me is not ready to let go of my anger, and I don't think it would be healthy to let go of all of it. I mean, the world is on fire, but I am ready to let go of some of it, to steward myself better. The Jewish New Year invites us to embrace possibilities of the world as it may yet be. My colleague, the Reverend Joanna Crawford, wrote these words, which I offer as a prayer for all of us. And the day came when finally they put down their burdens and said, "That's enough of that." The moment was full of sorrow, but also relief. Arms exhausted from carrying the burden of trying to entice, persuade people to be more compassionate, wise. They continued their work of building a world more just, but were freer, lighter. The responsibility for others' thoughts were gone. They taught that through their actions, for anyone willing to read their lives. You can see them now at work in the daytime, singing and laughing in the evenings. Ask for their views, and they'll give you a mysterious smile. You can join them, you know, but you cannot fight them. For they just continue on their way, doing the work that is theirs to do. They do not seek your agreement, your approbation. When they encounter an obstacle, they find a way over it. I have never seen people who worked so hard look so at peace. Our closing words come from Jean Harrison Newyar, who has written in The Gift of Faith. In the lore of ancient China, there's a story of a philosopher who was asked, "Where is the road called hope?" He replied, "It does not exist, but as people move forward upon it, it comes into being." I invite you, as we enter this new year, to embark on this path called hope with me.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Thank you for sharing today's service with us. We extinguish the chalice with words by John Brigham. Go your ways, knowing not the answers to all things, yet seeking always the answer to know one more thing than you know.